Hey guys, what's going on? Just going to take a quick look at Gala. Ticker for this is obviously Gala, and I'm currently on the weekly time frame. This isn't a coin I cover very often. I think I've done it maybe once or twice, and that was probably months ago, right? So yeah, let's take a look at the what's going on the chart. Now, first thing to point out here is we had this long-term falling wedge where we had this top resistance line and this lower support line. Basically, they came to a convergence point, and the price broke out of this falling wedge quite impulsively, which they tend to do because this is a bullish reversal pattern. I mean, it's hard to look at this and think it's bullish, but in TA, a falling wedge will more often than not break to the upside. Now, when we broke to the upside, actually we came all the way back down and we came lower than this previous low, which doesn't happen very often. Now, if you look at Bitcoin, we had a low, then we had a higher low. That was our bottom. It's basically a double bottom. That's what this could end up being. Now, I don't know what's going on fundamentally with Gala. I don't follow it. I know it has something to do with gaming. If you know what Gala is about and you really like this coin from a fundamental perspective, maybe leave a comment and let us know what you like about it. But just from a TA perspective, this one actually appears to be a little bit weaker than the other coins that I've covered. If you want to trade Gala, just a few really important levels that you should draw on your chart, okay? For starters, this downsloping level of resistance, again on the weekly time frame, just take a trend line and connect the wicks, right? So right here to right here, and you'll see this is where we currently are. We're at a resistance point from this downsloping level of resistance. Not only that, we have confluence at this range as well, because if you take a horizontal trend line and paste it right at the top of these candle bodies right here, you see that this level was support right here. We broke below it. It was resistance not once but twice, and then we had a further move to the downside, right? So we've reached this point where we have the confluence between this downsloping level of resistance and this horizontal level of resistance. So knowing that, you might be considering taking a short. Taking a short right here, let's actually just map it out. Actually, first we'll run a Fibonacci retracement to identify potential targets to the downside. So just run it from the low up to the high right here. And that's going to give us these levels, right? So we have the 382. The 382 is actually confluent with the price right here. You see this was the level of support right here and here. It's around where the lower region of these candle bodies closed, right? So the 382, this would be a potential target if I look to take a short where we are right now. Now let's see if this potential setup will give us a risk-reward ratio that's even worth taking, right? So short position at the current price, which is around 0.024. So if we entered right here, stop loss we would have to place above this previous wick and above basically this horizontal resistance line and this downsloping resistance. So that's where I place my stop. It would be risking 12.83% on a trade. And let's see if this trade played out in our favor and it came down right here to the 382. This would give us a risk-reward ratio of 1 to 1.36. For risking that 12.83%, we could potentially get 17.39% to the downside. To me, that's not optimal. Instead, what I think I do if I wanted to short this, which I'm not personally going to short this, right now with this phase of the market, I'm primarily looking for long positions, just because on a lot of the coins that I've been trading and looking at, we are in uptrends now, right? So, but anyway, I'm going to change this from the weekly time frame to the daily time frame, and there's something I want to see. Okay, right here, coming up to this resistance, we have this cluster of price action. Now, what I want to see, I'm going to look to see if we have a bearish divergence here on the daily time frame. So let's look at the oscillators. Right here, okay, so we have a high on the oscillator, then a lower high, and that is different from what we're seeing on the price, right? So we have the high right here, then we have a higher high on price, but oscillator, high, lower high. And again, right here we have the high, and then on the price we have a higher high, but look what's happening, look what's happening here on the oscillator. We're putting in lower highs on the oscillator, right? So this is a sign of weakness here on the daily time frame. Now let's get rid of that and let's take it down to a lower time frame. Okay, so you see here, every time the price comes up to this resistance, it sells off. Now ideally, if I was going to short this, where I would look to enter is going to be up here. If the price does come back here and I'm able to enter my short up here, now let's see what the risk-reward ratio is going to look like. I'll take this back out to the weekly time frame so we can get a better look at it. So for this trade, if I'm patient and I get an opportunity to enter the short position closer up to the resistance, I would only have to risk 5.32% to potentially get 22.88% to the downside, and that's going to give me a risk-reward ratio on a trade to 4.3. So given the fact that we are showing some bearish divergence on the daily time frame, and this potential trade setup would give me a really favorable R&R, I actually might consider this. However, take this down to the 4-hour, and where I would ideally like to enter is going to be up here, right at this downsloping level of resistance. As you can see, every time we come up to it, we get a pretty strong sell-off. So I'm just going to be patient with this one and see if the opportunity for this short trade presents itself. And again, if I'm wrong, which I could be, because in the long term here, take it back to the weekly, in the long term we have broken out of a long-term falling wedge pattern, and this could potentially be the double bottom, right? But we do have confluent resistance, and this is just a short-term trade setup that I'm going to look at. Now, if you look at this structure here, we had this low, then we came up, got rejected at the horizontal resistance line, and further downside. If we come up, get resistance at this line again, and come back to the 382, and then work our way up from there, that's going to be a formation of an inverse head and shoulders. So this section here would be one shoulder, down here would be the head, and if we come down to this 382 and replicate what we're seeing on this side, that would be a potential inverse head and shoulder. And if we break this downsloping level of resistance after putting in that inverse head and shoulders, and then we break this horizontal resistance level, that's going to give us a pretty good target to the upside, right? So theoretically, if that did play out, and this was the neckline, right? So what you would do to identify the target is you measure basically the length of the head and you project it from the breakout point. So that would give us a target all the way up here. And speaking of targets, basically this would be a really profitable trade, right? And speaking of targets to the upside, let's zoom out and you'll see that I already have them marked, right? So based on the price action, you probably should draw this on your chart if you want to trade Gala. Just take a horizontal trend line and paste it at the top of these candle bodies here. Next level up is based on the top of these candle bodies here. Next level beyond that is based on the lows of these candle bodies here. And then this one is basically a range. And then so I have another horizontal trend line right here based on the lows of these candle bodies. You also notice that I have a range drawn here and a range drawn here. And I'll show you the reason for that. If I take a Fibonacci retracement, run it from the swing high here down to this low, that's going to give me these levels, right? So in this case, the 382 lines up perfectly with the horizontal trend line that I just suggested that you paste at the top of these candle bodies right here. The 50% also lines up perfectly right here at the top of these candle bodies. And we have the 618 right here. I mentioned to draw this level based on the low of these candle bodies. So when you run a fib from here down to here, the fibs line up perfectly. However, some people now, because we put in a new low, they're going to run the fib down here. So some people are likely going to still be looking at this because the fibs are so confluent with the price action. But others who draw the fib to this low, they're going to be looking at these levels, right? So that's why I have these drawn as a range. So I just extended this box down, and now the 382 is based on the top of these candle bodies. It's a little bit lower. So this is the range. This is the top level based on the top of these candles and the original fib pull, and the lower level of this range is based on the top here and the other fib pull, right? And it's the same right here. Since we pulled the fib lower based on the new low, the 50% comes in slightly lower. However, it's still a very tight range, right? So it's 0.10262 up to 0.11352. So it's important to have that in mind and just understand that different traders are going to be looking at different levels here. And I just try to analyze the chart and see what the majority of people are likely going to be looking at, right? So to play this first range, if I wanted to short, which will be counter trend if we break out of here, which I probably wouldn't do, but just as an example, if I wanted to short, I would be more confident shorting up at this range with a stop loss above here than shorting at this range with a stop loss that's still within this range, right? Because a lot of traders are going to be looking at this higher level, and if I place my stop loss slightly above here, I'm going to get stopped out, right? So it just tells me that if I'm going to short in this area, I have to make sure my stop loss is above here. Anyway, let's get that off of there, and yeah, I think that sums it up for Gala. We are at a confluent level of resistance right here, so that presents a short opportunity if you wanted to take it. However, I mentioned already that for me to take it, I would just take it on a smaller time frame and try to enter at a price that's closer to the resistance, so I have a more favorable risk to reward ratio as I target down here at this 382. Anyway, hopefully you found this helpful. If you did, smash the like button. If you're not subscribed and you want to get notified when I release new content, click subscribe, click the bell, click on all. If you don't do that, you may have a hard time finding the channel again just because it's relatively new. As you can see, there's less than 2,000 subscribers. And because of that, I'm not really prioritizing the search algorithm, right? So if you want to be able to find the channel again, just make sure you subscribe before you click away. Also, it's a Black Friday sales event, and normally I put links to 3 different exchanges in both the pin comment and description, and all 3 of those exchanges will typically give you a sign-up bonus. However, they're offering Black Friday sign-up promos right now, so if you want an even better bonus, click those links and see what they're offering. Also, you may need a VPN to trade on those, just depending on where you're located. So I also put a link to NordVPN, and for Black Friday, the Black Friday promotion that they're having, I think they're giving 69% off. So check out that if you need a VPN to trade. And lastly, if you've been thinking about getting a hardware wallet, which is the safest way to store your crypto, Ledger Hardware Wallet, they're having a Black Friday promotion, and they're offering between $20 and $50 worth of Bitcoin, depending on which ledger you buy. So obviously that's a pretty big discount, especially now that we're coming into the bull market. Actually, I bet you the Bitcoin that they give you for free for purchasing the ledger will actually cover the cost of the ledger within the next 6 months, right? So really good promotion that they're running. The link to that promotion, again, is in the pinned comment and description. All right, guys, that about wraps it up for Gala. Take care. Have a good day. Bye.